The vast desert stretched out under the yellow sands, with the setting sun hanging low in the sky. It should have been a magnificent sight, but at this moment, it was overshadowed by the billowing demonic aura. From time to time, piercing shrill cries echoed across the desert, adding a somber tone to the grand scenery. Boom. It was unclear how long this scene had persisted, but suddenly the entire world seemed to tremble for a moment. The demonic aura that spread across the desert quivered as if affected by an invisible force. Then, in the distance, a black line appeared at the horizon. It quickly expanded, and in just a few minutes, it turned into a vast sea of people, stretching endlessly, swiftly closing in on the desert. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The sound of wind tearing through the air filled the sky. The massive forces, like an army of tens of thousands, gathered with a fierce battle intent that blotted out the sun. The sheer power of their formation was enough to make anyone's heart race with fear. Under the oppressive force of such overwhelming battle intent, the demonic aura that had filled the desert began to retreat. Stop! In the main formation, Tang Xinlian gazed at the vast desert ahead. Her sharp eyes glinted with cold light as her command rang out across the army. Form the battle lines. Sweep away the demonic aura. Yes. Countless voices responded in unison. Then, a vast surge of primordial energy erupted, charging straight into the desert. As the energy passed, the once pitch-black desert slowly regained a bit of its natural color, and the sky cleared up slightly. The Allied forces advanced, their formation flawless and tightly knit. They pressed forward in a fan-shaped array, slowly encircling the western mystery desert and ultimately stepping into the heart of it, clearing the demonic aura as they moved with earth-shaking steps, locking their sights on the very center of the desert. The entire desert seemed to tremble beneath their feet. The sky and the ground were almost entirely occupied by the presence of countless figures. Every one of the strongest warriors of this world had gathered here. The Allied forces continued their march, but strangely, they encountered no resistance along the way. After just half an hour, they gradually slowed their pace, and the many eyes filled with hatred and rage now fixed on the distant horizon. At the center of the black desert stood a massive city, like an evil beast lying quietly in the depths of hell. Yet, a terrifying aura emanated from it, making one's heart race with unease. Even the overwhelming battle intent of the Allied forces seemed to falter under this pressure. Could this be the headquarters of the demon prison? The army halted 100 miles away from the enormous city. Both sides fell silent, and in the stillness, the atmosphere became almost suffocating. It was clear to everyone that once this tension was broken, the battle that would follow would be the most terrifying war the world had seen in millennia. Heh! You've finally arrived. A voice suddenly rang out as demonic aura gathered above the city. A figure in black robes appeared slowly. He looked toward the distant army, now nearly filling the sky, and smiled gently. His calm voice echoed across the desert. Among the Allied forces, many figures darted out, and soon one stood at the forefront. Huanhuan, with her ice-blue eyes, gazed at the familiar figure and said coldly, "Heavenly King, it's been a long time." Heh, indeed. 1,000 years have passed, yet Ice Lord, you remain as graceful as ever, admired by all, came the reply from the figure atop the city walls. It was the Heavenly King, offering a faint smile. We've fought for so many years. I'm a bit tired now. How about we settle this with a handshake? The Heavenly King laughed lightly. Dirty scum, you should leave this world. It does not belong to you. The Lord of Life and Death said lazily, his eyes rising to meet the enemy. The Heavenly King chuckled, tilting his head back as if gazing through the heavens. Leave? We'd like that. How about you help us open the dimensional rift and let us go home? Once we've purified you all, you should be able to go wherever you please, the Flame Lord replied coldly. Oh dear, you people never change. A voice came from beside the Heavenly King, accompanied by the swirl of black mist. Several figures emerged, and the youthful figure of the second Demon King smiled and shook his head at the Flame Lord. You still talk the same way after all these years. You bastards never seem to die. the Lord of Space sneered as he looked at the familiar faces. Likewise, Huanhuan responded coldly, her eyes unshaken. She stared at the Heavenly King and said slowly, "Don't worry, this time. The war that has lasted for over 1,000 years will come to an end. You won't have a third chance." "You shouldn't speak so arrogantly," the Heavenly King said, shaking his head with a smile. He then raised his hand slightly. "Demon prison forces, come out and show yourselves." Boom. As his palm descended, the vast desert suddenly trembled violently. Then, everyone saw the ground begin to liquefy, and a thick demonic aura, like liquid, surged out. Countless Yimoa, as though crawling out of hell, quickly spread across the other side of the desert. The number of these Yimoa was so overwhelming that it was impossible to count. Wherever one looked, demonic shadows filled the view. Clearly, the entire power of the demon prison had gathered here. The sight was not any less imposing than the combined forces of the three allied armies. Boom. The earth quaked again as a colossal figure slowly rose from the city. Its 8 enormous demonic arms stretched out, seemingly tearing the sky apart. It was none other than the great heavenly evil demon king. "Looks like everyone's here," the Lord of Life and Death said coldly, eyeing the great heavenly evil demon king. "We will stop the heavenly king and his forces. The rest, including the demon prison experts and their army, are yours," Huanhuan said as she turned to look at Tang Xinlian, Little Mink, Ling Qingzhu, Qing Tan, Qingji, and the others. "Understood." The others nodded slowly. Clearly, this moment marked the beginning of the final battle. "All troops, listen up. This is our last fight. If we win, we will eliminate all future threats. If we lose, the tragedy of the Western Mystery region will spread across the entire world, and no place will be spared." Tang Xinlian gripped her sword tightly and then swung it down with force. "If you want to protect those you care about, then fight. Fight." Countless eyes burned with fiery determination as they roared in unison. The thunderous sound, like a hurricane, swept through the desert, raising a storm of yellow sand. Boom. The three allied armies surged forward, their primordial energy sweeping out like a tidal wave. They formed battle formations, their eyes red with fury as they charged at the demon prison forces. "Heh, demon prison, hear me? To fulfill the Emperor's will, kill them all." The Heavenly King laughed maniacally, his voice laced with violent bloodlust. "Kill." A sharp, piercing screech erupted from the demon prison army. The demonic aura surged, and countless demonic figures rushed out, colliding with the flood of the allied forces. Boom. The two seemingly endless torrents of power collided, shaking the entire desert. Primordial energy and demonic aura wildly intertwined in a clash of forces. Blood quickly stained the ground, and the stench of blood and the sounds of frenzied combat echoed through the heavens. Even the setting sun seemed to tremble and hide behind the clouds. "We move too." Huanhuan cried out, her body shooting forward. At the same time, the Heavenly King and his forces on the city walls vanished, only to reappear in front of Huanhuan and her group. The Heavenly King smiled as he looked at the group standing in his way. Then his gaze settled on Huanhuan. "Ice Lord, in this state, you are no match for me." Huanhuan fell silent for a moment before suddenly turning to face Lin Dong. In his stunned gaze, she raised her delicate face, her cold, soft red lips brushing against his. The crowd watched in shock as strange ice-like patterns began to appear on Huanhuan's body. The chill radiating from her became increasingly terrifying. Lin Dong gazed at the near-perfect face before him, his eyes widening as he noticed that her ice-blue hair and eyes were beginning to shimmer with a crystalline glow. A terrifying, unfamiliar coldness slowly radiated from Huanhuan, causing Lin Dong's lips to sting with a sharp, icy pain. "I'm sorry," Huanhuan said, her eyes briefly flashing with guilt. She stepped back slowly, then quickly removed her slender, snow-white gloves, revealing her jade-like arms. Strange ice patterns shimmered on her arms, glowing with eerie light. "This battle between heaven and earth ends here. I don't have the patience to continue playing with you," she declared coldly, her voice now much more ethereal than before, though it seemed devoid of emotion. Her crystalline hair fluttered lightly as she exuded an aura of inviolable coldness. The ice-cold aura she radiated even seemed to have a sacred feel, but it was unmistakably alien. Lin Dong stared at her unfamiliar, chilling figure, his hands unconsciously tightening, his body trembling. He lowered his head slightly, his figure trembling as a hoarse voice finally emerged, seemingly carrying an endless fury. Upon hearing the raspy voice, the freezing aura emanating from Huanhuan, so cold that it seemed capable of freezing time itself, momentarily stagnated. The freezing aura, powerful enough to halt even time, faltered slightly under the anger-laced raspiness of the voice. Flame Lord and the others looked at Lin Dong, their gazes turning somewhat complicated. Lin Dong slowly raised his head, his eyes fixed on the graceful silhouette ahead. The figure, sensing his gaze brimming with fury, clenched her delicate hands tightly. As the situation grew increasingly tense on their side, Heavenly King let out a faint smile. He glanced at Lin Dong and said, "Are you curious why? I can give you that answer." Heavenly King took a light step forward, and his originally mild expression turned exceptionally sinister. A horrifying demonic aura rippled out from his body, so terrifying that it even suppressed the bone-chilling aura emanating from Huanhuan. Under this demonic aura, the heavens and earth trembled. It was a power truly capable of destroying the world. Flame Lord and the others, sensing the horrifying intensity of the aura, grew visibly grave. Heavenly King had truly regained his full strength. If she didn't act, all of you would be dead. Heavenly King grinned maliciously. At that moment, with the overwhelming demonic aura surrounding him, he looked like a terrifying demon god. Then let me test that. Raging fury surged in Lin Dong's heart as the divine palace at his brow emitted a resonant hum. Fixing his gaze on Heavenly King, his figure shot forward. But as he moved, an icy hand clasped his arm. "You are no match for him yet," a crisp yet icily detached voice echoed beside Lin Dong's ear. Lin Dong's face darkened as he shook off the cold hand. Silver light shimmered across his body, and in a flash, he appeared above Heavenly King. Radiant purple-gold light erupted as nearly 100,000 strands of purple-gold dragon patterns roared in unison. Boom! Lin Dong threw a punch, and the nearly 100,000 purple-gold dragon patterns transformed into a massive purple-gold dragon that tore through space as it charged at Heavenly King. "You do have some skill, but it's not enough," Heavenly King said with a faint smile. His pale hands abruptly clawed downward, and two streaks of abyssal black light appeared, effortlessly tearing apart the colossal purple-gold dragon. Swoosh! As the dragon was shredded, a hint of cruelty flashed in Heavenly King's eyes. Though impressed by Lin Dong's strength, he recognized the threat this opponent posed to the demon prison. Resolving to eliminate him swiftly, he stepped forward and appeared before Lin Dong. His fingers, sharp and covered in black demonic crystals, a manifestation of demonic aura condensed to its peak, were poised to strike, capable of piercing through even the heavens. Lin Dong, seeing such an attack, steeled his gaze. Three distinct lights burst forth from within him, enveloping his body. His entire arm liquefied, surging with the combined might of 3 ancestral talismans. Boom! Heavenly King's demonic finger collided heavily with Lin Dong's liquefied ancestral talisman arm. The impact fractured the surrounding space, and Lin Dong staggered backward, retreating several dozen steps as his blood churned violently within. Though his strength was advancing at an astonishing pace, there remained a noticeable gap between him and Heavenly King, one of the ancient era's peak powerhouses. Heavenly King, seeing that his strike failed to severely injure Lin Dong, appeared faintly dissatisfied. His figure darted forward like a phantom, reappearing before Lin Dong to launch another assault. But just as he was about to strike, a figure wreathed in icy blue appeared before Lin Dong. A slender jade finger, laced with cold fury, met Heavenly King's attack head-on. Crack! Demonic aura and freezing energy collided, sending shockwaves through the space around them. The two clashed and were both forced back several steps. Heavenly King smiled faintly, saying, Ice Lord, why the anger? I was merely trying to help you teach him some perspective about your noble intentions. You're not qualified for that. Huanhuan's crystal-clear eyes glimmered with sharp coldness as they locked onto Heavenly King. Beneath that icy gaze, a deep and unmistakable killing intent surged. Heh, angry, are we? That's rare, Heavenly King remarked mockingly. Yet his eyes bore no trace of humor, only a chilling indifference. Don't act recklessly. Once everything is over, I'll give you an explanation. Huanhuan tilted her head slightly, her crystalline hair swaying gently as she spoke softly to the slender figure behind her. Lin Dong stared at her graceful silhouette for a long moment. As he spoke, he stepped back, and upon seeing this, Huanhuan's jade-like hand instinctively tightened. Even with her heart as cold as ice, when she heard those words, a hint of sadness surged within her. Sigh. However, this was not the time to discuss such matters. She took a deep breath, suppressing the turbulence in her emotions, and then her crystal-clear eyes focused on the smiling Heavenly King. After years of struggle, this was the first time she felt such overwhelming murderous intent toward this person, to the point where she could barely contain it. A terrifying chill spread out. Her jade hand grasped the air, and a frost-covered spear slowly manifested in front of her. Her eyes burned with killing intent. No longer able to hold back, her delicate figure shot forward, and in the sky above, snow and ice surged. The spear, sharp enough to freeze both time and space, rushed toward the Heavenly King's palace. Haha, can't hold back anymore? The Heavenly King laughed loudly upon seeing this. Demonic aura surged violently, and in the blink of an eye, it rushed forward, bringing with it an extremely terrifying ripple that swept across the sky. Go ahead, make your move. The Lord of Life and Death, watching the two clash, his eyes flashing coldly, moved swiftly toward the demon prison's second king palace. Leave this one to me. The big guy's mine. The ancient lord, gazing at the great heavenly evil demon king, his body glowing with purple and gold light, quickly expanded, growing into a giant tens of thousands of feet tall. He stomped on the ground, charging toward the great heavenly evil demon king with a thunderous roar. Since you all have chosen your opponents, then I'll step in as well. The third king of the demon prison smiled faintly. His eyes turned toward Lin Dong. It seems you're the easiest to deal with. How about I handle you first? Lin Dong's expression remained unchanged as he took one step into the air. Suddenly, a towering divine light erupted from his brow, and faintly, it seemed that a divine palace was materializing. Divine palace stage? The third king's gaze fixed upon the ethereal palace and his expression stiffened. He finally understood why Lin Dong had the qualifications to stand alongside the ancient lords. Let me take care of him. Lin Dong's eyes gleamed with a fierce look as he spoke to the Flame Lord and the others. Without hesitation, a brilliant divine light shot from his brow, streaking directly toward the third king. Seeing this, the Flame Lord and others nodded slightly. Given Lin Dong's strength now, he was not far from them, and with the power of the divine palace, it was possible for him to contend with the third king. The third king's face still wore a smile as he flipped his palm. From his hand, an evil eye shot out a demonic beam that collided with the divine light from Lin Dong's divine palace, repelling it. Lin Dong's body moved, appearing in front of the third king. Meanwhile, the Flame Lord and the others acted in unison, blocking the other high-ranking members of the demon prison. At this moment, the battlefield stretched across the sky and the ground, with the terrifying energy fluctuations rippling throughout the Western Mystery region. Even people from the other three mystery regions could feel the intense pressure, and countless tense gazes were cast toward the far-off horizon. You're not as simple as you look, the third king remarked, his eyes on Lin Dong. It's only been a year, and you've already reached the divine palace stage. Lin Dong gave him a cold glance. He had no intention of exchanging words. His body trembled as his arms swiftly liquefied, and the power of the three great ancestral talismans erupted in full force. With his breakthrough into the divine palace stage, Lin Dong's mastery over the ancestral talismans had reached a truly transcendent level. Whoosh! Lin Dong moved as if teleporting, appearing directly above the third king. His palm, imbued with the vast primordial energy of the ancestral talismans, surged with terrifying force, slamming down toward the third king's crown. Boom! Though Lin Dong's strength had increased dramatically, the third king was no easy opponent. With a violent tremor, his body became engulfed in thick demonic aura, forming a sinister black demon emperor armor. He punched upward, colliding with Lin Dong's strike. The impact shattered the surrounding space, the cracks spreading like glass, sending shockwaves through the air. Without hesitation, the third king unleashed his counterattack. Dark, sharp spikes sprouted from his demon emperor armor, and his body spun, sweeping toward Lin Dong like a vortex. The sharpness of his aura even began to tear through space itself. Lin Dong, undeterred, did not retreat. His body flickered with the light of the 3 ancestral talismans, and then he too began to liquefy. In the next instant, his liquid form solidified into a formidable battle armor made of black, lightning, and silver energy. The battle armor formed by the 3 great ancestral talismans enveloped Lin Dong's entire body. He threw out a punch, and countless black holes, thunder, and silver light gathered beneath his fist, forming into a powerful force before crashing fiercely into the sharp, black hurricane. Clang, clang, clang. The two forces collided head-on, sparks flying as the shockwaves reverberated through the air, shaking the very heavens and earth. Like mad beasts, the two clashed again and again, fists flying, each blow a deadly strike. Every punch contained enough power to obliterate even a peak reincarnation stage expert. Yet, with their powerful battle armor protecting them, both Lin Dong and his opponent endured the blows. While Lin Dong battled fiercely with the 3 Kings Hall, other skirmishes in the sky were rapidly escalating. Both sides had fought for countless years and were well aware of each other's methods. As a result, this final showdown was merciless, with neither side holding back. Space tore apart, and the sky shattered. This battle seemed on the verge of destroying the very world. The intensity of this battle was beyond imagination. The entire world was filled with demonic aura, and primordial energy surged violently. Fearsome battlefields unfolded in the skies and on the ground. The spectacle of this battle, extraordinary in scale, was something unseen in the past 1,000 years. In general, the world was divided into 2 main battle zones, the ground and low-altitude areas, where the Allied forces clashed with the Demon Prison Army, their top experts locked in fierce combat, and the high-altitude regions, where Lin Dong and the Ancient Lord fought against the highest echelons of the Demon Prison. Having fought since ancient times, both sides knew each other's strength all too well. The battle was intense, with both sides striking mercilessly. Boom, boom. Lin Dong was currently locked in a furious battle with the 3 Kings Hall. Having ascended to the Divine Palace realm, his strength was now comparable to that of his opponent. Thus, the 3 Kings Hall could no longer easily defeat Lin Dong, as they had a year ago. Whoosh! The two figures shot past each other in streaks of light, the clouds around them tearing apart as they sped through the sky. They were now thousands of meters above the ground, where, far below, 2 torrents of energy clashed violently. Killing intent and bloodlust surged to the heavens. Enshrouded by the ancestral talisman battle armor, Lin Dong resembled a killing machine, unfazed by the demon emperor armor of the 3 Kings Hall. With every punch he threw, countless black holes, thunder, and silver light coalesced. The combined power of the 3 great ancestral talismans fused into his strikes, their sheer ferocity forcing the 3 Kings Hall to react with full caution. Boom! The two locked eyes, fury in their gaze. They each threw a punch with all their might, and when their fists collided, the very fabric of space shattered. Both were sent flying back thousands of meters, only to stomp on the air and charge forward once again. Nearly 100,000 purple-gold dragon runes soared around Lin Dong as he unleashed the sky-transforming dragon art. The power was even more immense than that of Qingji, yet it still failed to give him a clear advantage. The 3 Kings Hall was no mere opponent, with a thick, viscous demon sea swirling around them. intercepting Lin Dong's brutal attacks. Sizzling, Lin Dong shot forward, his hand gripping the power of the three great ancestral talismans, which erupted into a scepter. The scepter was a fusion of three colors, with thunder flashing at the top, silver light swirling through the middle, and a swirling black void at the bottom, like a rotating black hole. Whoosh! Whoosh! Lin Dong's arm trembled, and the ancestral talisman scepter transformed into a storm of ruthless scepter strikes, sweeping down upon the Three Kings Hall. Gate of Black Demon. Seeing this, the Three Kings Hall's eyes flashed with a vicious light. His demonic palm slammed into the air, releasing a surge of thick, demonic aura that coalesced into a massive black portal, its surface adorned with a terrifying, monstrous demonic visage. Boom, boom, boom. The scepter strikes, infused with the power of the three great ancestral talismans, slammed into the gate of Black Demon, causing cracks to spread across the massive portal. Lin Dong, like lightning, seemed to merge with the scepter as he charged forward, ripping the enormous gate apart. Whoosh! The scepter pierced through the enormous gate, silver light flashing. The scepter remained firmly in Lin Dong's grip, but its top mysteriously appeared behind the Three Kings Hall, thrusting directly into his back. Clang! Sparks flew as the Three Kings Hall was sent flying, a deep imprint appearing on the Demon Emperor armor. Before he could even react with anger, he felt space around him warp. Countless thunder-infused scepter shadows pierced through space, enveloping his vital points. Clang! 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 In just a few breaths, the powerful scepter strikes had fully descended on the Three Kings Hall, leaving deep marks on the once imposing Demon Emperor armor, making the powerful figure seem a little disheveled. After being relentlessly hammered by Lin Dong, the eyes of the third Demon King in the demon prison suddenly turned bloodshot. A fierce roar erupted from his throat, and with a swift punch, terrifying demonic aura gathered around his fist, transforming into a black crystal light. The light surged forward, compressing dense and pure demonic aura. It exploded, shattering the space above Lin Dong's body. Boom! Lin Dong was knocked back, his body flying through the air. The ancestral talisman armor on his body cracked, and blood seeped from the corner of his mouth. His internal energy surged violently. The third Demon King was truly worthy of being one of the top figures in the demon prison. His combat strength was the strongest Lin Dong had encountered in many years. This battle was bound to be difficult. After sending Lin Dong flying, the third Demon King looked down at the Demon Emperor armor, now covered in deep cracks and on the verge of breaking, his eyes burning with even greater malice. He licked his lips, staring coldly at Lin Dong. I never expected that the softest of soft persimmons would be such a tough nut to crack, he sneered. Lin Dong narrowed his eyes. Not a battle? The third Demon King smiled faintly and looked down at the almost endless battle below. However, he could feel the shocking accumulation of blood and killing intent rising at an astonishing speed. I heard about you from the three useless fools at the Yuan sect a long time ago. Originally, I thought you were just an insignificant ant. I never imagined that today I would be forced into this by the very ant I once looked down on. The third Demon King slowly raised his right hand. In the center of his palm, an evil eye blinked, watching Lin Dong with an unsettling gaze. However, I think it will be more satisfying to take care of you first. Heh, can't leave any regrets, right? He said with a cruel smile. Lin Dong's gaze was indifferent as he stared at the increasingly deranged third Demon King, a vague unease creeping into his heart. This eye is called the Prison Demon Eye. It was granted to me by my emperor. I used it to ambush the Ancestral Talisman Master once. If you die by it, you should be content, don't you think? The third Demon King's hand closed slowly, the smile on his lips twisted and sinister. Lin Dong remained silent, his expression unchanged, showing no intention of responding. How boring. Seeing Lin Dong's unchanged face, the third Demon King couldn't help but sneer. Then, an overwhelming wave of demonic aura erupted from his body. The aura was thick and viscous, with countless tiny crystals visible within it, a result of demonic aura condensing to a terrifying degree. Buzz. The sky-shattering demonic aura poured into the third demon king's arm, causing his hand to turn as black as ink. The evil eye in his palm began to emit a shrill, high-pitched ringing sound. The evil energy surged violently, expanding rapidly. The third demon king grinned menacingly at Lin Dong, and then Lin Dong watched in shock as his arm began to shrink at an alarming rate. In just a few breaths, it seemed as if all the blood had vanished, leaving only the sinister and terrifying evil eye. Boom! With a sudden burst, the third demon king's arm shattered, and the evil eye detached from his palm. As the demonic aura surged, the eye began rapidly expanding, growing to a size of over 1,000 meters in just a few breaths. The monstrous evil eye floated high in the sky, releasing a vast wave of sinister demonic aura. An extremely terrifying fluctuation emanated from it. Lin Dong gazed at the grotesque and malevolent giant eye, feeling its terrifying energy. His expression grew serious. He took a deep breath, then clenched his palm, sending an ancient light array flying from his hand. It expanded in the wind, growing to several thousand meters in size. The ancient array slowly began to operate, radiating a pure and ancient power. This was the true ancient cosmic formation. An ancient cosmic formation, huh? The third demon king furrowed his brows slightly and then stared intently at Lin Dong. At this moment, the enormous evil eye began to slowly close. Boom! The ancient cosmic formation activated, and a strange light curtain cascaded down. The overwhelming demonic aura began to dissipate, but the evil eye remained motionless. Yet, Lin Dong could vaguely sense a destructive force rapidly gathering within it. That power was unsettling. Lin Dong took a deep breath, his eyes flashing with cold light. His hands quickly formed a seal, and vast primordial energy surged out. Hand of the Cosmos. The ancient cosmic formation trembled violently, and a vast, strange light spread out, forming a giant hand that stretched thousands of meters. A giant hand reached out, directly piercing through space, and slammed down fiercely on the evil eye. Heh. The third demon king smiled faintly, his eyes slowly closing. As his eyelids lowered, dark blood seemed to flow from the corners of his eyes. In that instant, the massive evil eye suddenly opened wide. The moment the eye opened, it was as if the heavens and earth were plunged into darkness. Everyone saw a beam of light, the most sinister in the world, shoot out from the eye and collide violently with the cosmic hand. Sizzle. When the two forces met, there was no terrifying shockwave, but the cosmic hand began to tremble violently. Cracks appeared, and with a loud bang, it was completely shattered by the beam of light. Just as the cosmic hand exploded, a brilliant divine light appeared from behind. A massive, towering divine palace materialized out of thin air. The palace loomed grand and majestic, as though a place where gods resided, awe-inspiring and domineering. Boom! The evil beam that pierced through the cosmic hand soared through the sky and once again crashed heavily into the towering divine palace. Rumble! A deafening hum rang out, shaking the heavens and earth. The entire divine palace trembled violently. Within the palace, a figure stood tall and slender. In his hands, a thunderous bow was drawn into a full arc. The arrows on it gleamed in 3 different colors, while within the divine palace, vast spiritual energy surged and poured into the arrows. Humming, the arrow trembled and released a divine brilliance so powerful that even the overwhelming evil aura was suppressed by it. Lin Dong's arm trembled, blood rapidly pouring from his hands. He gently closed his eyes and slowly released the string of the bow. Whir! At the moment Lin Dong's fingers let go of the bowstring, the entire divine palace seemed to erupt with a crisp hum. A dazzling array of divine lights poured into the 3-colored arrow, which absorbed them all. This arrow contained all of Lin Dong's strength. Whoosh! A streak of rainbow light shot out from the divine palace, its burst of brilliance instantly evaporating the evil aura that filled the heavens and earth. Countless gazes were shaken as they watched the rainbow light streak forward, crashing into the malevolent black beam of light. Boom! A thunderous sound resounded. The light from the arrow was like a blazing sun, slowly rising, and under its radiance, countless demonic auras were obliterated. Break! From within the divine palace, a hoarse voice echoed. The next moment, the evil beam, which could make even a peak expert who had crossed the 3 reincarnation tribulations retreat, began to crack and shatter. Crack! Crack! The evil light shattered completely under the impact of the rainbow light, and the rainbow light continued on its path, tearing through the sky like lightning, crashing into the immense evil eye. A shrill, agonizing scream suddenly erupted from the mouth of the 3rd Demon King. His eyes shattered, quickly sinking into their sockets, with black blood pouring out wildly, looking horrifying beyond belief. The monstrous evil eye shrank rapidly and finally transformed into a dim black light, darting back into the 3rd Demon King's hand. However, he was still clutching his eyes, letting out a savage, snarling cry from his throat. The divine palace slowly dissipated, finally merging into Lin Dong's brow. He emerged, trembling as he wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. The 3rd Demon King was indeed ruthless, and if it weren't for his surge in power, using the ancient cosmic formation to wear him down, and then activating the divine palace, perfectly combining the 3 great ancestral talismans into the arrow, it would likely have been him screaming in agony now. The scream of the 3rd Demon King echoed through the sky. But strangely, as his scream rang out, the demon prison army below seemed to falter for a moment, and the battle formations in the sky also showed signs of halting. However, this seemed to be one-sided, only affecting the demon prison side. Lin Dong noticed this strange scene and was momentarily stunned. He glanced at the 3rd Demon King, who was howling in bitter unwillingness, and felt puzzled. Though the 3rd Demon King had been heavily injured, it was clear he still had the strength to fight. Why, then, did he seem to be on the verge of certain death? Up in the highest levels of the sky, the Heavenly King retreated, his robes torn from his previous battle with Huanhuan. He turned his gaze toward the 3rd Demon King, then looked again at the blood and hostility filling the air. "Third brother, I never thought that the first to suffer would be you." Tian Wang Dian turned and glanced at the 3rd Demon King, smiling as he spoke. The agonizing screams of the 3rd Demon King gradually faded. His face was covered in black blood, looking especially terrifying. The other high-ranking members of the demon prison also stared at the 3rd Demon King, their expressions a mix of weirdness and fanaticism. Hee, that's right. The 3rd Demon King wiped the black blood from his face and gave a strange smile. He looked toward Lin Dong and said, "You really are something. I thought we'd at least be able to fight a little longer, but I never expected you'd hurt me so quickly." Lin Dong furrowed his brows, looking at the bizarre expressions of the 3rd Demon King and the others. A sense of unease swept through him. His gaze shifted toward Yin Zhu and the others, who also wore worried frowns. "The battle isn't over yet. Isn't it a bit too early to start wailing?" Lei Zhu sneered. "Heh, after so many years of fighting, do you still not know each other's tricks? We may not be able to defeat you, but if you think you can completely wipe us out, you're mistaken." Tian Wang Dian chuckled lightly. "Ice Lord has grown tired of this endless struggle, and so have we. So this time, we really want to kill all of you. Can you?" The Lord of Life and Death scoffed. "What do you think?" Tian Wang Dian's face once again twisted into a strange smile. He then turned to the 3rd Demon King and said, "Third brother, since you lost, it's time for you to start." At Tian Wang Dian's words, the 3rd Demon King let out a bizarre laugh and nodded. Then, under the gaze of countless eyes, he floated into the air, crossed his legs, and began forming hand seals. Dark blood continued to pour from his face, thickening by the moment. An ominous feeling spread through the air. Seeing their strange actions, Lin Dong's dark eyes suddenly flashed with a cold light. His body shimmered with silver, moving like a ghost to appear in front of the 3rd Demon King in an instant. With a flash of his ancestral talisman scepter, he struck with lightning speed toward the 3rd Demon King's throat. Puff! The ancestral talisman scepter pierced effortlessly through the 3rd Demon King's defenses. In an instant, black blood gushed from his throat, spraying everywhere. The 3rd Demon King was killed? A thunderous uproar erupted from the army of the Alliance, but oddly, no one cheered. Everyone could sense that something was wrong. The being who had once forced the 8 ancient lords into slumber and reincarnation, the highest of the demon prison, was so easily killed? Hee. The third demon king raised his head. A grin filled with black blood spread across his face as he looked at Lin Dong. Suddenly, his body began to expand uncontrollably. Not good. Lin Dong's heart sank as he saw this. His body flickered, and he vanished in an instant. Boom. Just as Lin Dong disappeared, the third demon king's body exploded violently. A thick, black, demonic aura, mingled with blood, erupted in all directions, obscuring the entire sky. The evil demonic energy, as thick as liquid, mixed with sticky blood, rained down and covered the ground below. From a distance, Lin Dong reappeared, a sweet taste rising in his throat. Although he had escaped quickly, he was still shaken by the explosion of the third demon king. This guy, actually self-destructed? Lin Dong stared blankly at the spreading demonic aura. He never expected the third demon king would choose to self-destruct. What were these guys planning? Hee. Tian Wangdian looked at the scene with a slight smile, then turned toward Lin Dong and the others, giving them a grin. Now, please watch our masterpiece, the result of 1,000 years of effort. I told you, this time you lost. Boom. The moment Tian Wangdian finished speaking, the ground below suddenly began to tremble violently. The earth cracked open, and a dense demonic aura poured out. From the depths of the earth, a massive, endless demonic shadow slowly rose. The shadow climbed out from the endless abyss, its head touching the sky, feet planted firmly on the ground. As the demonic aura spread, it seemed like an emperor among demons. What is this? Lin Dong's pupils contracted as he looked at the terrifying demonic shadow. It seemed to have countless enormous demon arms, and each palm had a tightly closed evil demonic eye. These eyes were even more terrifying than the evil eyes on the third demon king's palms. The statue of the demon emperor? Huanhuan, watching the terrifying shadow, felt a chill run through her. She spoke with a trembling voice. Everyone, the feast begins. Thank you for your cooperation. Tian Wangdian smiled gently, then bowed slightly toward the direction of the Alliance troops. Boom, boom. The moment his voice fell, countless self-explosions erupted within the demon prison army. The coalition forces were horrified to see that the demon prison troops exploded one after another. Thick, demonic aura, mixed with blackened flesh and blood, splattered outward, and all of it eventually swept into the statue of the demon emperor. As the demonic aura and blood poured into it, the evil eyes on the demonic arms of the statue began to slowly open, one by one. With each eye that opened, the world grew dimmer. Boom, boom. Explosions continued to occur rapidly, and the entire desert seemed to turn into an ocean of black blood. The coalition army quickly took to the air, their gazes filled with shock as they watched this scene unfold. The monstrous demonic aura, along with the bloody and malevolent energy created during the earlier battle, surged into the statue of the demon emperor, awakening one evil eye after another. However, it was clear that awakening all the eyes of the statue would not be an easy task. By the time the demon prison army had completely self-destructed, only half of the eyes on the statue had opened. "Your turn," said the Heavenly King, looking at the other high-ranking officials of the demon prison with a faint smile. Upon hearing this, figures like the second demon king and others also revealed eerie smiles, a fervent madness in their expressions. They then sat cross-legged in midair, and with a final look from the Lord of Life and Death, they self-destructed. Boom, boom. The terrifying demonic aura swept across the heavens, blocking out the sun. The Lord of Life and Death and the others wore grim expressions. They had been entangled with these beings for over 1,000 years and had never been able to destroy them all. Yet now, in just half a day, they had chosen to self-destruct. What exactly were they trying to do? The sky-darkening demonic aura and blood rushed into the statue of the demon emperor again, causing even more evil eyes to open. The Heavenly King gazed at the distant horizon with a smile on his face, his strange expression sending a chill down one's spine. Unlocking the statue of the Demon Emperor will indeed bring you closer to the power of the alien Demon Emperor. Huanhuan spoke slowly, her cold, crystal-clear eyes locking onto the Heavenly King. But even if you manage to unlock it, without the alien Demon Emperor's blood to guide it, you will never succeed. As long as we can erase your presence from this world, even if we all perish here, at least the world will never again suffer under the alien demon's wrath. In that case, we would have won. The Heavenly King chuckled softly. A noble cause, indeed, but I'm afraid it's you who will lose. He turned his head, gazing toward the distant eastern horizon with a slight smile. Ice Lord, do you still remember when the Talisman Master sealed my emperor? He severed one of his arms? Upon hearing this, Huanhuan's expression changed drastically. Heh, you guessed correctly. My emperor's arm is still here, in your world. In fact, from the moment the Talisman Master burned the reincarnation seal on my emperor, you lost already. Your Talisman Master can never surpass my emperor. The Heavenly King knelt respectfully toward the east. My emperor's hand, please return to its rightful place. As his voice rang through the heavens, the earth suddenly began to tremble wildly in the far-off eastern mystery region, within the alien demon region. The ground cracked open, and a torrent of demonic aura surged out. A beam of black light pierced through the ancient ceiling formation and tore through the sky, rushing toward the western mystery region.